much for coming on this hot day. You all look amazing, by the way. We're getting the perspective from up here. We're going to start with introductions. My name's Dan Glass. I'm an activist with AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, the London chapter. And ACT UP started in 1987 in America and had chapters all over the world. And I've completely changed my life being part of ACT UP. But before I go on, I'd like to start the introduction with a little song that you might recognise. And make yourself comfortable, close your eyes. Do what gives you joy when you listen to this song. Get up and dance if you like. Over to you, Gunther. And I kind of want to go the full 8 minutes. But thank you so much. Feels like we're in church. Big queer church. I saw some smiling faces. Could I just have a few, and I'm sure there were some happy memories coming back. Can I just have a few of them? What did that song bring back? Any specific memories, places for you?
Dancing in the 80s.
Whereabouts? Say your name as well if you like.
My name is Maggie.
Maggie, thank you.
I used to go to the Bell at King's Cross.
Yeah.
Amongst many other places, just some great dancing memories.
Oh, great. You got some good moves as well, Maggie. Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, the Bell in King's Cross.
I remember dancing I don't know if anyone remembers the Three Pigeons in Forest Gate.
Yes.
I remember what I miss. I don't know if everyone's dancing now in aircon dance places. I remember just being really sweaty today. I like that, and I always feel a bit lost if I come to dancing and I'm not sweating.
Yeah. Thanks, Lil. One more, maybe from the back. Yeah. Oh, yeah, two more, yeah.
Sorry, my name's Ned, and it takes me back to the 80s in Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
And when they all there was a club open every night, different nights, loads of different clubs. Also clubs in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
I was dancing away to that. And also New York. I remember New York.
Everywhere, huh?
It was just full on everywhere.
From Forest Gate to New Zealand to New York. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you.
So my name's Lindsay, Coventry, 80s.
Okay, wow.
Dancing to it, and actually dancing to it and not being aware of the lyrics. I just got caught up in the tune, and then just being aware of where I was and who was there. It's like, oh, you've got to listen to the lyrics now, girl.
Yeah.
And it, because at first it was just what a tune, what a voice. I wasn't actually tuning in with the lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah.
Simon. Really last month, wasn't it?
Ah.
I think that's the power of music, because we went to the Eagle in London.
Yeah.
And they do an 80s night.
Called
Athena. And
I think it's called Athena.
I know.
Right.
And they play all the great 80s songs. You know,
Wow.
and one of them is that, and you get to dance to it in 2025.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing. Wow, thank you everyone. Thank you for sharing. I've just got my and there's one word in that song which is actually on your T-shirt, which is why I'm an activist. Can you show everyone your T-shirt? Yeah. Turn around so everyone can see it. Love. That, for me, that's why I'm an activist, because our community is incredible. And I've got so much love for people like Jimmy, for Bronski Beat, music artists, activists who fight to change the world for a better place. And love, for me, goes hand in hand with rage. And that's why I'm wearing this T-shirt. Starmer's AIDS cuts will kill. And I'll talk more about that after. But that's me. I'm an activist with AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power London. Over to you, Barney.
Well, I'm kind of politically motivated as well, but by being here, it's because the record industry went through a very weird time, I think, in the 2000s, and lots of household names were really struggling to get record contracts. And I just worked with Eartha Kitt just before she died, recording the first person to ever be allowed to record her live show. And she said lying, I've been waiting all my life for somebody to ask, but she hadn't, because she wanted people to buy tickets to her shows, but she knew she was dying. And I filmed her at the Cheltenham Festival, and sort of one thing that really did lead to another, because then Mark Ullman's manager phoned and said, would I like to do a live show with him? He was struggling for a contract as well in 2009. So I brought those artists over to Cherry Red, where I was beginning a career in music. And then I approached Gunter because there was a Jimmy Somerville album called Suddenly Last Summer, which didn't have a physical release. It was kind of like digital only. A lot of people who, were stars from the time were just doing it digitally because they couldn't get a deal. But actually Cherry Red as an independent is very flexible. And it started a relationship with Jimmy Somerville, reissuing all of his post-London albums over the years, being the conduit to release the Homage Disco album in the UK. And then, funnily enough, I ended up working for London Records as well, and I still work for both. So I'm kind of all over Jimmy Somerville's back catalogue. And with London Records, we were able to, I hope, do justice to the age of consent in the 40th anniversary editions that I curated. Because my other hat is actually, I'm a tape archivist. So the tapes, I could find that tapes of tracks which were studio sessions that hadn't been mixed properly or whatever. So we put those together and found other kind of windows to give light to the Bronski Beat story, songs like Walking, that were part of the infamous 6-song set that was at the Bell back in 83, and never made it to the album. So we were able to put that back together. One of the other things, following on from I Feel Love, is that there had been plans to make a 16-minute version of I Feel Love to kind of mirror what had happened with the Patrick Cowley remix in 82. And you're among the first to know that we've achieved that, and we've put that together, and that will be out there soon. The 16-minute, it was because it was such a kick bollock scramble to get hundreds and thousands out. It was up against a timeline. So in actual fact, they just released the cake mix and the fruit mix, and that was it. But there were plans. I could see that from the recording reports and the way that the masters were labelled. So being an archivist is kind of like an intervention in a sense. You get a sense of what should have been happening and what opportunities got missed, and put that together. I'm also obsessed with the idea that Small Town Boy, for me, is a really formative track. And I've grown older, and in many ways I think the Age of Consent album is for kind of young people, in a sense, because it was a coming together of a lot of young people. I'm now, as I get into midlife, interested in what's happened to those small town boys now, and as they approach death. And So two things have preoccupied my time creatively as a creative, is that I explore some of these ideas in the songs and shows that I write with Andy Bell from Erasure. The Torsten series, it's called, Torsten in Queerateria, Torsten the Bareback Saint, all of this. He's a polysexual semi-immortal. And also in my poetry book, Cul de Sacrilege, I've got a copy of that here. This is a small town boy story in verse that starts from, the beginnings of moving from a humble Dorset town to the promissory delights of the distant city, but then goes through first jobs, shit relationships, and ends up in an Armageddon. And we don't know whether that's an Armageddon of the mind or a real Armageddon, because we're living in really challenging times. So I'm sort of plugged into the whole Bronski thing in a lot of ways. Being the person that curates the Bronski Beat releases and the Jimmy Somerville catalogue, but also creatively trying to explore that notion of what happens to those small town boys.
Thank you, Barney. Should we read the lyrics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Seamlessly.
Yeah.
You leave in the morning with everything you own in a little black case. Alone on a platform, the wind and the rain on a sad and lonely face. Mother will never understand why you had to leave. But the answers you seek will never be found at home. And the love that you need will never be found at home. Run away. Turn away. Pushed around and kicked around, always a lonely boy. You were the one that they talk about around town as they put you down. And hard as they would try, they'd hurt to make you cry. But you'd never cry to them, just to your soul. Run away. Turn away. Cry into your soul. I think Dan and I were discussing the fact that culture is very real, and that this song has been a clarion call for generations to people who are hurting, and that pop music does this. And I think we thought that we would like to ask if anybody had an uplift or that it was a motivation to move in any of your lives to try and become the person that you were meant to be.
Thank you. Yeah, would anyone like to share what the Small Town Boy lyrics kind of struck in you, what it resonated? Or if it brings up anyone else that you'd like to bring into the room? Lil?
You know, you were speaking about love is attached to rage.
Yes.
When I heard that song, I had a lot of people that were coming out, they were very young and coming out and stuff like that. And I just remember it being very sad, but at the same time absolutely full of rage.
Yeah.
When listening to the pain in Jimmy Somerville's voice, the beauty of those lyrics.
Yeah.
And it also, as an anthem to dance to as well.
Yeah.
So, and even now sitting here, you can feel it, you can hear it, can't you, in my voice? I can just touch the rage like that. So,
Yeah.
because obviously everyone in the room knows, and you especially Dan, we're still fighting like fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Lil. But do feel free, anybody, do feel free to say some of the key issues that catalyse that rage then, which maybe are still relevant now.
for me, the wind and the rain, and you say an only face. I just remember most people that I was talking to as a young person and people were coming out was the loneliness.
Yeah.
And they had nowhere, they were trapped.
Yeah.
It wasn't only small towns, you've got small towns in London as well. If you're on an estate and you're any even that's bollock different to anyone else, you're totally attacked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that maybe the big town maybe wasn't such an escape because the big town was actually a series of villages.
Yeah.
But you can get lost, I suppose, in anonymity.
Yeah.
But that's the word lonely, and just Somerville's voice and where it sits musically, which I didn't understand at the time how brilliant he was.
Yeah.
I just thought, he made me feel something so big,
Yeah.
which is what opera normally does to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we weren't on our own.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lil.
To me, I'm Chris Bella.
Hey, Chris.
I find it very nostalgic
Yeah.
in the sense I moved to London in '83 to go to college. And when I see that video, my parents didn't know, couldn't come out, could not come out at all, would never be. And that video was so real. And it's not the reason I left home. I left home to college, but I still didn't like London and I found it too much. So that video, and of course I loved the song, and it's, and I was 20, and it's, it's an exciting time, moved to London, you're having a good time. I was also moved to London, it was a big deal, and I wasn't happy at first and everything. But I do love that song, and it does remind me so much of a certain time. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Things are really, things have changed a lot, but if you were around then, life was very different.
Yeah.
I was protected, I was at art school, I was lucky.
Yeah.
Because I was in an environment where you could be who you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I know that. I didn't realise at the time how lucky I was, but I know the people of my age didn't have such an easy time if you're in a different type of job or college. But I was in art school, so I was kind of protected.
Yeah.
But it does remind me so much of that certain time.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Just on a different sort of note, on two things with the song, me and Louise got together in '83.
We are that old.
Yeah. and tunes and everything like that, but it wasn't until our daughter came out as gay that you sort of listened to the lyrics more, and understand them more, and it helped us not deal with how Rianne was, but understand how she's feeling, I think.
She's lucky to have you.
Well, you tell her that.
The likes of Jimmy, them singing that and Erasure singing Hideway. Obviously we loved that music when we were young, wrinkle-free teenagers. But now we reflect back as parents of a girl who came out 22 years ago when she was 14.
Yeah.
And to us that's a blink of an eye ago. But then we think, hang on a minute, that's like 22 years ago. And she struggled. She rebelled against us because she didn't realise that actually we were like, we love you. So the sentence like, mother will never understand why you had to leave. From me, it's from a different angle because it's like, but you're gay and I love you. I don't care. But I think she felt kind of what she had to do.
Yeah.
It's it's really weird. But now I reflect back, and sorry, I've taken over your question. That's what I do. That's what I do. But now I reflect back on sort of small town boy in Hideway as a parent of a girl, now woman, who's now got 2 children with her wife and has been married for 11 years. And I reflect back and I think, my God, without the likes of stars like that, being brave and coming out when it wasn't the done thing to do, musicians, actors, celebrities had to literally hide away. And without them, without the likes of you, who fight for it, I would be, as a mother, so much more scared for my daughter and now my grandchildren. Because, we all know, like you said, if you're marginally different, forget what you said, it's much more interesting than mine. You get picked on. We all know you get picked on at school for anything. And I've got 2 little grandchildren who've got to grow up saying, I've got 2 mummies. But without the likes of you all.
It's interesting that you bring up Hideway, the song by Erasure, because it gives me the opportunity to read a special message from Andy that he's written about Small Town Boy, which is in sort of a book that we're trying to do something with. He says, "To this very day, every single time I hear the opening chords and bass line to Small Town Boy, it sends shivers down my spine and gives me goosebumps, and it still does to this very day. The sense of adventure and exhilaration in the line, with everything he owns in a little black case, just brings my home-leaving days rushing back to me with all that sheer unknowingness of stepping out into the big bad world as a vulnerable gay man in the 80s. When Small Town Boy came out, I was living in one of the last gay squats in London, just off the Holloway Road. I'd been out on the London scene for about a year by then. One of the most amazing gay political pubs we used to frequent at that time was the Bell in King's Cross. We were all very young, marching for the striking miners and later against Clause 28. Jimmy was there and always will be the vanguard for our courage, so brave and outspoken. Apart from Sylvester, who I know Jimmy loves, there wasn't really anybody who was so raw and emotional. I thank God for this record and for Bronski Beat."
Mm-hmm. Thank you to Andy as well. Chris, did you want to share? Did anyone else want to share?
No, I was just saying, it's interesting because no pop stars were out. Elton John was not out.
Yeah.
The only one was Sylvester, who I was lucky enough I did actually see Sylvester.
Oh, was it?
But nobody was out, were they? It did make Fred Craig. It makes sense, did it, to come out? You know,
Johnny Mathis tried, didn't he? And then went back in the closet.
Yeah.
Klaus Nomi? Yeah. Klaus Nomi was out, wasn't he?
Who?
Klaus Nomi.
Yeah.
Well, generally,
was out. Very few.
They were the only two that were actually, because it was too risky.
Peter Straker was out.
Right.
Yeah.
But he went into theatre, and his records didn't sell so much. But he did try and come back with an album produced by Freddie Mercury, funnily enough. But he was very brave. He signed to RCA at the same time as David Bowie, and the money was put behind Bowie. He was the Black Bowie, but I mean, he's still alive and with us. But I think he is testament to the fact that what you're implying is true. That if you were out, your career path diminished. Elton came out as a bisexual, didn't he? And then had to run back in the closet and get married. Johnny Mathis came out and then wasn't allowed to speak about it until, I think, a few years ago when he said, "I've always embraced the gay lifestyle." So yes, it was a very weird time. Very weird.
It's only really them. It's like Jimmy, Andy Bell, like Boy George,
Yes.
Mark Armand. It was just that sort of early 80s music scene that started to open things up where people were saying, I don't come out.
Well, I mean, George was very fuzzy about it, wasn't he? Because he was like playing. Yeah. Well, we know why, but
Well, the same with Neil from the Pet Shop Boys, wasn't it? It took a big spread in Attitude magazine almost a decade later. But I mean, Andy was an exception in that he was out from day one.
Yeah.
You know, but so was Jimmy. You know, and that was so precious, and the fact that he was out and presented so ordinarily with a normality that wasn't a great camp meringue that came on stage, or playing with the S&M iconography, the shock value of maybe Frankie. Because two of them were out and just pipped Bronski to the post, but they were the first completely all members gay band. Interesting.
I think it was a very weird time when we were saying that. It's very different stories. Like for me, I was 16 in '84, and you were pushed one of two ways. And for me, all of my musical icons were exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But because of convention and story, and then luckily, I say luckily in one way because I have had a good life in that first act with my wife, but you don't realise how much of yourself you're suppressing. And I think the music is the one thing throughout the whole of my life that has stayed the same. And listening to that when Barney was reading, it's like tears are coming. It's kind of, you don't realise how much of your unique you that you've suppressed, even though you were happy and everything was, you know, you just carried on that life. But I said to Si, one of the key things was watching It's a Sin.
Yeah.
And then seeing Ollie Alexander buying a house, and it all comes flooding back, all of that talk about, you know, are you a homosexual? You're not going to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
And you forget all of those things that were just constantly in your face with a very small amount of really dynamic people that were brave enough to talk about what they were talking about. And you felt like, and it's awful to say, it wasn't your fight, because you were like, well, that's not me, is it? And you've gone down this other path, and you don't realise how easy it is to do that, and then you come back to it now, and that fight's still going on. It changes, life is changing, things are reverting in some ways, and it's terrible. And it's just like, why can you not just, you said it, more love. Love is everything. Yeah. Because it's the only thing that matters. Yeah. Realistically.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, love. I feel like we should have a big group hug.